as human beings, we evolved to read faces. That's how we judge people for better or for worse in many cases. And you don't get that via text. So like, the future of customer stories, is not text. The future of customer stories is video and all of the different mediums that video is becoming. Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the State of Customer Storytelling, the podcast and video series where we delve into all things customer stories and how you as a B2B marketer can leverage customer stories to close deals faster. This is a podcast from Testimonial Hero. I'm Sam Shepler, the founder and CEO of Testimonial Hero. We also have Chase Hanna, our head of marketing. And yeah, we're excited to chat today. Chase, start us off.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get with the best one. To kick it off, why do video testimonials matter in B2B? I mean, it's a question.
Yeah, great question. Why do video testimonials even matter, right, in the first place? Well, at the end of the day, what video testimonials enable is simply to build trust faster. As in any buying process, and particularly a B2B buying process with a large ACV, a high consideration sale, you really need a significant amount of trust to facilitate that. And trust is basically the grease that lubricates any deal and moves it along. And if you don't have that, everything is just going to move slower. And having the right video testimonials that align with the verticals that your buyers are in, and provide helpful and relevant context from trusted third parties are just about the best way to actually build that trust and close those deals faster.
Definitely. I like that a lot. So we've noticed that, there's a shift from marketing content to customer content. Can you kind of, expand on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Great question. So, I think we technically, customer content is marketing content. But what I mean by that, and what I really want to, hit home is that, we used to live in a world where, you could achieve, great results, as a sales team, as a marketing team, leveraging, basically, your own content, just saying, here's what we do, here's what our product does, here's why we're different, here's why, you might be interested. Traditional marketing content. But now, we now live in a world where, traditional marketing content is not enough. If you want to, win deals at the speed and at the rate that, frankly, you're going to need to in today's landscape. And for that to happen, the best B2B companies out there are leveraging, customer content. So customer stories. So effectively, if I'm a B2B buyer and I'm comparing two solutions and they're pretty much neck and neck in a lot of ways, one of the things that's going to be the tiebreaker is which company that I'm looking at has more and more compelling customer stories. So it's just having not having customer stories and also having them being authentic and accessible and in a great exciting format like video. It's not enough, because the fact is your competitors will have it, and the game is changing. So marketing content alone is no longer enough to compete at a high level. You absolutely need great customer stories as well.
Now that makes sense. Love it. Great way of putting that too. In the past when we've talked, you've mentioned that making customer stories a competitive advantage. Can you drill down there? How can customer stories be a competitive advantage?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I kind of hit on it a little bit in that last point, but let's drill down more. So,
Yeah.
In what ways are customer stories actually a competitive advantage? Well, again, if I'm a B2B buyer and I'm comparing two solutions, one of the things that, I am going to be looking at, because let's remember, buyers do about 80% of their research before they talk to a salesperson, first of all. So if I'm, doing my research, uh, you know, taking a look at, comparing two or three or four different solutions, the one that has the best and most robust and most helpful and, most relevant customer stories that are accessible to me as a buyer, that is going to be a huge advantage, compared to, the ones that don't. It's going to, actually increase, the trust index and the level of trust that I have in that solution. And for that reason, I'm, even before I talk to a salesperson, if I'm a buyer, I'm going into that, into that deal with already an elevated level of trust, as compared to, maybe the company who really had a couple, generic written text testimonials, but didn't have any, world-class video testimonials. So and then we can even go on further in the sales process. So, if I have an objection, or a question in the sales process, which all buyers do, they always have, a question or a fear or a doubt, whether it's an outright objection or just simply a question, you know, who is going to have a more effective sales process? The salesperson and the company that says, that uses the traditional thing, which is just like, feel, felt, found. And, I understand how you feel that way. Here's how our customers actually felt. And then they found this. And like, versus a company that says, yeah, that's a great question. Here's exactly what our customers have to say about that. Right. So it's basically like customer content. And especially as you get further along the sales process, and you get into these, specific, QFDs, these specific questions, fears, and doubts, having the ability to just have a repository of, world-class, customer videos around every single topic that your buyers will care about is just a huge competitive advantage. So in summary, it's really all throughout the buyer journey, right? It's a competitive advantage to even generate the lead. Like I don't want to reach out to a company who I don't think, who I think is just going to waste my time, right? So like, you're going to generate more leads, and then, throughout, that sales process, you're going to be able to leverage customer stories to reduce friction and ultimately, close the deal much faster.
That's great. Love it. And you've touched on this already, with this last question, but diving in a little deeper, how do you come up with a winning customer storytelling strategy to really push that, narrative even further?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to, the strategy for, customer stories, it's pretty simple, and it starts with, understanding your company priorities and your company strategy, like at a high level, and like so, and then you want to fit your customer story strategy, to that, and it should support it and align it. And again, very simple, but not always easy. So the customer story strategy stems from your overall, company strategy and your strategic initiative. So with that in mind, you want to figure out, okay, like, well, what is our strategy? And if you're depending on your level in your company, you may or may not know exactly what it is, right? If you're, a marketing manager, you might want to check in with your manager and just realign it, because strategies shift on a frequent basis, and understand that. So first and foremost, it's like clarity on strategy. So like say and then it's where do customer stories fit in to support that. So for example, and like where are the gaps? So for example, say your strategy is, as a company, is you want to move up market and sell more enterprise deals, or maybe you want to move horizontally into a specific vertical. Well, if either of those are true, then the question you need to ask is like, do we have all of the customer stories to support that goal? and and then if not, then that becomes a priority. Or another question you can ask is like, what are the 3 to 5 customer stories we need that would just make everything so much easier. So that is where you start. Really, it's all about the customer storytelling strategy. Is is based on your overall overarching strategy, and then first things foremost, it's filling the gaps. So you're doing a gap analysis, and then you're prioritizing and ranking what is the what is going to move the needle, and that is how you can decide, like, which customers that you're asking for testimonials, right? You have hundreds or thousands of customers. Well, who do you ask? Well, yeah, again, it depends on your strategy, right? If you're trying to move into a new vertical, you always want to ask the customers that represent your strategy, right? So that is that is what it's all about. And again, nothing shocking, but very important is that, like, the customer storytelling strategy has to align with your overall strategic priorities.
Definitely, and you went into detail about, getting the strategy analysis and seeing what you're gonna have to do with that. But what would you say the number one most important thing for a winning customer storytelling strategy is? Like, if you had to pick one thing, what's the best?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's a great question. So then, what is the number one most important thing for a winning customer storytelling strategy? I think that it's a tough question, but I think it would be, this comes to a term called the principle of parity. So parity, as in, likeness, sameness. So, the number one thing is that you want to capture customer stories from the same type of customers that you are focusing on prioritizing and selling to in your go to market, right? Like, shoes that don't fit are not a bargain at any price. Like, you don't want to put effort into capturing stories from customers that really don't represent the future of your priorities. So you want to focus on the customers that are best fit, or at least align, and in that way that is going to be more effective, because the principle of parity is all about this a psychological principle that basically states we as humans are influenced and persuaded in a greater degree by people that we perceive to be like us, right? Parity, again, is basically sameness, right? So that is the key, is you want to, if you're going after a specific ICP, your customer stories should be from that ICP. And if there's one tip that I would give to say, like, okay, if you do this, you can do a lot of other things wrong, but you're going to still be successful. That would be it.
Okay, so that all sounds really awesome. I'm sure everyone wants to know this. Any tips on how to get customers to agree to a video testimonial? We know that can be very difficult at times.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one tip to get customers to agree to a video testimonial, is to set the expectation early, um, in the sales process, and actually broach that conversation early, and potentially even include it in the contract, in your sales agreements. And there's a big misconception here. Some people say, like, I don't want to, like, hold customers' feet to the fire to get a testimonial agreement. And, like, that's not at all actually, like, what is happening in practice, right? So, like, um, you know, actually, how it works is, like, you can make those, um, well, first of all, if the customer doesn't have a great experience with their product, you're never going to call in that agreement, right? Like, you're not gonna hold someone's feet to the fire for something they don't genuinely want to do. So that is the big thing. So basically, like, having agreements for video testimonials and other advocacy activities in your contract, agreed upon in advance, just starts the conversation earlier, and basically, if and when, the customer has a great experience, they would give you a testimonial anyway, but it's already been discussed. It's already technically in the contract. So it's just much easier to make that happen. Um, Secondarily, it's a great, in from a sales perspective, it's a great bargaining chip, or like a trading, mechanism, right? So like maybe your and you can work if you're a marketer, you can talk with your sales leaders and kind of institute this if it's not already happening. But basically, like buyers are going to obviously ask for different terms, different discounts, um, and in sales you always want to you never want to just give something for nothing, right? It's always like a quid pro quo. Okay, we can do this if you do this, and that's just the basics of good salesmanship, right? So video testimonials are in the agreement to do a video testimonial pending satisfaction is one of the best things that you can pull out in one of those situations, right? So maybe so that would be my biggest tip is including having more of a practice of including the clause in your sales contracts that pending satisfaction, customer X agrees to do a video testimonial. And again, it's not like you're strong arming them or holding their feet to the fire for it, because you're only gonna do it with people who genuinely would be excited to. And so I think that's a big misconception. And also, again, really practical implications from the sales negotiation side as well. And if you have to, be in a situation where you're slightly like discounting or, giving, favorable terms, getting that video testimonial agreement is something that companies are, usually very happy to do in exchange, for like a small discount or more favorable terms.
Definitely. So we've given them a discount and or we're just working with them and they've given us a testimonial. Let's go from there. How can you think about ROI and measurement in terms of video testimonials? How are we seeing the return there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one other thing to add is like, in terms of the discount, it's actually, in many cases, it's like better to include the clause by default. So we have, customers, we have many customers who that, their default is, they default to including, the video testimonial clause in there, pending satisfaction. And then it gets taken out and then it eventually gets put back in the negotiation process. So that is, that's another thing is like, if you really want to capture more, agreements for testimonials, it's like, well, you can default to that. And in regards to your other questions, a great question. How do you measure like how do you think about the ROI of video testimonials? Like, how do you measure it? So the short answer is like it's very easy to, and after you produce video testimonials, and your sales team is using them to see like are salespeople using them, and are they influencing deals, and are they actually helping close deals, and is time to close decreasing, and does sales want more of them? Because let's think about this for a second. Like 80% of marketing content that marketing makes, there's a study, maybe what we'll link to in the show notes, but it's basically the point is like 80% of content that marketing makes actually like goes unused by sales. Not incredibly shocking, but like the fact that sales actually is using these video testimonials, um, that in and of itself is a huge win. So like utilization is a huge win. Like sales will not be asking for things that aren't valued to them, right? So if they're asking you for more video testimonials, like that is a huge sign. And they're probably asking you for, if you're a marketer, they're probably asking them for you right now if you talk with sales. Secondarily, I mean, if you really want to dig into the details, you can you can see, what, you can measure time to close. You can measure, how much their pipeline is influencing, how much revenue. And then furthermore, if you really want to dig in, I mean, if you use a video hosting platform, like Vidyard or Wistia, you can easily, or there's many others, but those are the most common business ones. You can plug all that into your marketing automation platform, and you can measure everything to your heart's content. You can do lead scoring. Most people don't do that because, like, being honest, like, there's some things in marketing that we do because they just make sense, right? Like, not everything. Like, if we only did things that could be perfectly measured, like, we wouldn't necessarily be great marketers, right?
Right.
Certain things in marketing we do because we have conviction and they make intuitive sense. And I would posit that video testimonials are one of the best examples of that. Um, I mean, we know that, just again, like, you can thinking from like psychological first principles and like human nature, and we we know we need trust to close deals. We know that video testimonials are a great way to increase trust, and the more video testimonials that we can have that address the QFDs, that questions, fears, and doubts that buyers have, and are also aligned with the key verticals that we serve, and then you make them accessible on your marketing site, and you make sure sales is aware of them and using them, then that is really, like, the ROI will take care of itself. That being said, like I said before, if you want to dig in and get crazy with it, it's totally measurable to your heart's content. But to me, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't have to go crazy measuring it, because you can. It's like self-evident, and then the sales results are also self-evident. And talking with the sales team, it'll be very clear the impact it's having.
Great advice. Really like that. So we go ahead, we get our testimonial. You've talked about how the sales team can really use it, but once we get the testimonial, where can we get most use of it on the internet, on the web, on social media? Where are we seeing the best results from that?
Yeah, great question. So, I think one of the mistakes that, marketers, that we can make is, like, we get these testimonials and then we kind of sequester them only on like a very, you know, page of our website that it's just not, doesn't have a whole ton of traffic. So, like, the first thing is, like, put them out where people will see them. Obviously, like, a customer's page is super key, but they should also be on your homepage. Like, and this has to do with quality, and this is why quality matters. Like, you don't want to put a like, so you don't want to put something bad on your homepage. It's just not gonna, in terms of like production quality. And everyone is happy to do things that are cheap and cheerful, but, like, that shouldn't be. Cheap and cheerful should not describe your homepage of your marketing site, unless you're like a 2-person startup. And that is why, and I'm sure we'll get to this, I think, is like, that's why production quality matters. Like, everything you do is a representation of your company and of your product. And you can't put something, unless you're proud about being cheap and cheerful. Like, you don't want to put something cheap and cheerful on your homepage. You want to put something that is high quality and, obviously authentic. You can't sacrifice authenticity, but yeah. So coming back to the original question, it's got to be, you got to put it everywhere that your buyers are going to see it. So, maybe that is, so don't just hide it in one area of your site. Put in your customers page, put in your homepage in the right area. Maybe you have industry pages, for key verticals, and you can put those customer stories on all those pages as it corresponds to the vertical. And then, in addition to the website, micro content on social, shorter versions. Social media attention span is you're competing with people scrolling a feed. and there's so many other options for them to get distracted. So like, on social, if you're keeping your website customer videos under 2 minutes, try and keep them under 60 seconds on social, right? 30 to 45 seconds is a great, length for, LinkedIn, for example. So, and then of course, arming your sales people, arming your individual sales reps with a whole, catalog, library of all of these videos that address the individual, QFDs, and they have just a quiver where they can, any situation that occurs, they can just pull out the right piece of content for that situation.
That makes sense. I really like that. So let's say I'm a marketing manager. I really want a testimonial, and I need the sign off. I'm not the one making every single decision. What kind of question should I ask my manager? About getting video testimonials. How can I convince them? Where do we go from there to get this going?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and yeah, I think hopefully you won't have to. If you're a marketing manager and you want video testimonials, and but you need your boss to sign off. I mean, I would say hopefully you don't have to convince them too hard. Or that would be like if they might be a little dated, honestly, and behind the times if they don't think that video testimonials are necessary. But also like that's okay too. I mean, different companies have different levels of sophistication and different levels of different markets they're selling to, right? So I would just ask the questions, honestly. Like I wouldn't try to convince them. I would just ask them some questions like what are our priorities in terms of the personas that we're trying to reach. Oh, we're trying to reach this persona. What sort of customer stories do we have to support that and to help in that effort? Well, we don't really have any, or like or we only have written static PDFs. Have we thought about customer videos? Have you seen what our competitors are doing with customer videos? Have you seen what other company X, who's maybe not our competitor, but has an amazing page or an amazing number of customer videos on their homepage? Have you thought about doing? What do you think about doing something like this? So yeah, I would say, good questions are the most important thing, and honestly, it's true for so many things, right? It's often like not the answer. It's like asking better questions. And I would, if you're a marketing manager and you want to drive this, I would start asking those questions. Ask those questions. And I think that will work really well, and both from like a effectiveness perspective, but also from a career perspective. I mean, it's great to be the person. Like customer videos have such a huge impact, and unlike there's a lot of marketing projects you do, as a marketing manager, as a marketing director, even that like it's really hard to know if they're like a huge win. You know what I mean? It's like they happen and they're positive, but it's not like something that like your CEO or the whole company is like, this is amazing. But video test, getting a series or even just one amazing customer video done that is just blows people away, like, and then being able to say like, I drove that project, like I did that, like that is something that you can hang your hat on as a marketer, and everyone knows that you did it, and and everyone knows the value of it. And your sales team, your sales team is gonna love you. Your CEO is gonna be aware of it, and he's gonna be excited. And honestly, the other thing is like the morale of your team is gonna go through the roof, because that's the other thing that is a interesting benefit of customer videos, is that they actually help inspire your team, and they help with recruiting as well, because everyone wants to work for companies who are doing meaningful and great things. And I'm unfortunately like sending a potential person you're recruiting a case study isn't going to do it. Like it's not exciting. PDF written case study or anything. It's like it's not, not today in the world we live in. But if you're sending them, oh, by the way, like here's some examples of how companies are seeing results using our solution, like that's meaningful. And because it's emotion that matters, and it's storytelling that matters. And both of those things, that is what video is made for as a medium. Emotion in particular. Like you don't get tone through text. The emotion is you can only do so much through text. And so so that's the other thing, is just like the impact that it has on your team morale, and also for people like your engineering team in a software company, right? They often do not, like we've had many instances of our customers at Testimonial Hero, our customers saying, wow, like these videos, I showed them to our whole company, and they brought so much context and meaning to like, other people who are like a little bit like customer service, customers, like, engineering, who are like, maybe like aren't directly involved on some things. And yeah, it's just the morale and the inspiration is like almost as big of a benefit as the revenue, generation.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Great answer. So, we've really dived into the strategy. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the types of testimonials out there and, the companies working with them. What type of companies and verticals or even sub verticals would you say benefit the most from video testimonials?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I think in terms of companies that, what type of, companies benefit from video testimonials, you know, anyone will, but especially, well, anyone will, because again, it's like, just like a principle. It's like trust. Increased trust is always going to have a net positive. And that's at the end of the day, it says it on our t-shirt right here. It's like, we power trust, that's what we're doing. And so, but yeah, so anyone, but in particular, deals that need, companies that need an increased level of trust. So like higher consideration sales, higher ACVs, right? Like 10K ACV up, especially. And then of course, I mean, the very large deals, it goes to that saying, but if you're selling, if I'm, a buyer, and I'm subscribing to your software, and it only cost me, $39.99 a month, and it's a monthly subscription. I mean, I can, it's not a huge deal necessarily, right? Like, if the ACV is like 39 a month, and like, it's like, well, worst comes to worst, I'll just cancel. So it's like, I don't need the trust barrier. It's a smaller commitment. The trust barrier is lower. So where, video testimonials and, great customer videos and great customer stories really come into play is when the trust barrier is higher. There's higher ACVs, bigger deals, higher consideration sales.
So there's a lot of options out there for video testimonials. We've seen, I see software out there, but I mean, that's definitely on the lower end of the spectrum for video testimonials. Why do you not want the cheapest video testimonial option?
Yeah, great question. So, so first of all, if you're selling something that's like, $9.99 a month, little software tool, or like, whatever, it's like, yeah, maybe a cheap option is viable, right? But in general, you want a proportionate response, and there's going to be like a pretty big, you want a proportionate response that's going to work for you. And like, there's going to be a really big disconnect if you are selling, something with like a 50K ACV, and you have a really great customer, and just like a kind of, cheap and cheerful video. And also like, you're not going to be able to leverage that, on your homepage. It's not going to align. Like you have a beautiful homepage and perfectly designed, and then you have this like dark, grainy, Zoom recording video testimonial. It just doesn't fit, right? So like, the questions is, and also it's like, how you do everything is how you do anything. So like, when you have a higher quality, and again, authenticity and quality are not mutually exclusive. Like you need, the best quality with zero authenticity is just as bad as, no quality at all. Right. So like authenticity is table stakes. Like it has to be like extremely authentic video. Like that's why we don't obviously script anything. It's all, interview based. Right. So, and that's another thing with apps is like, you're not getting like that interview experience. You're not getting a real conversation. And it's not getting to that authenticity. But yeah, the main thing is like, um, you know, if you're selling something with a high ACV and it makes sense to, and you only get like one ask, of your customer to do this, it makes sense to invest. Like it would actually be like, you're sort of like, you have a certain amount of, political capital, and you get one ask for your video testimonial. It doesn't make sense to blow that on something with limited utility, right? And by limited utility, I mean, it can't be posted on the homepage. It has utility, but it's just not super impressive. Like you have really that one ask. You have the economics work out in terms of your ACV. And if you're planning to use this and it's going to influence deals, like, it pays to do it right. And so, yeah, that's basically it. It just doesn't make sense. If you want to do it right, because you're not going to have the, as many places to utilize it. The results are not going to be there. And at the end of the day, you don't get to do it over. So you might as well do it right the first time.
Great argument for why software is not always the most pertinent solution for sure.
And actually, so let's talk about some examples of when software could be, the good example, right? Like again, if you were selling something really cheap, and like it's not a high consideration sale, so a quick little video testimonial clip captured via software could be great, right? Like it doesn't, like if you're selling, if your ACV is $9 a month, like it probably doesn't, software is the right, so it should be proportionate. It should be a proportionate response and calculated, right? Secondary, another example is like e-commerce, right? Like, if your, average order value is $45 and you're selling, some direct to consumer product, it's like, you need a proportionate response, and that might be a software testimonial. So like broadly speaking, like I'm not at all against, software testimonials. I'm just for, a proportionate response in, taking into account what your ACV is and what the, how much utility you want your customer video to have in the future.
No, that's a great way of putting it, and a good argument too for software when it's pertinent, like you said. Moving on, we know that in 2020, COVID really threw everyone for a loop. And with that, the advent of remote testimonials has become much more prevalent these days. Can you talk a little bit about on-site versus remote video testimonials and the pros and cons between the two?
Yeah, it's a great question. On-site versus remote video testimonials. I think, for a long time, and I would argue, before up until Testimonial Hero, there wasn't a good option to make remote testimonials professional. There just wasn't. Like you weren't getting a remote testimonial and putting it on the homepage of a $50 million company. And that's what people are doing now, like with us, and because we sort of cracked that code. So like basically, the in terms of like the differences, it's like the on-site testimonials, you're filming with a videographer, and you're using the latest and greatest cinematic technology, and like it's going to be extremely high quality. So and it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to get more B-roll. So generally speaking, if it's an option, the way I think of it is like, okay, like if it's an option, because we have to consider the COVID situation, And thankfully, like I think in more and more places, it is becoming like very option. Like we're doing a lot of on sites now, um, but basically, if it's a marquee customer, like if it's one of your marquee customers, your biggest logos, and they're open to an on site, like that is, um, you know, that is probably the way to go, because it's like you get one shot, and if you only get one shot, like do it right to the maximum of your ability, and without having to sacrifice anything, and that may mean on site. Now, it's certainly not a requirement, because I mean that was really our whole thing, and like our whole mission of the company was to make all video testimonials highest quality and effortless. So that includes remotes as well. And this is more of a strategic conversation, and maybe we'll have another episode where we get into the tactics of how we do that. But if anyone's curious, they can obviously just go to our website and see examples of what we're talking about, in terms of the quality of the remotes. So yeah, I think other than that, other things to consider are on sites are definitely more expensive, right? We're talking about getting a whole crew out there and filming. They're a little bit more of a lift, from your testifying customers end. The crew is going to be there for a couple hours. So it's just a little bit more of a lift there. Again, not a crazy lift. It's just a couple hours, but it's more than their lift for a remote testimonial, which is just attending a 30-minute meeting, and having an interview through our process, right? So yeah, I think those are the things to consider. And especially if it's a marquee customer, default to on-site and then work backwards from there. If it's someone if you really want to make it the smallest as possible, or the person's obviously working remotely from home, that then it's like, really like the on-site, and then the question and the goal is like, then it's the remote rather, not the on-site. And then the question is, well, how do you make the remote testimonials, just insanely high quality? And obviously, like that's the problem we solve. So that's how I would think about it.
Good point to speak to that. That makes a whole lot of sense with that. Tangent off of the on-site testimonials, there's also event testimonials. Where does that fit in? How do event testimonials compare? And there's even the hybrid option. Tell me a little bit more about event testimonials and how they work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, event testimonials can be fantastic because they can be extremely efficient, time efficient, as well as cost efficient, way to capture on site. So, we've worked with, an example of this, and we've worked with many, B2B tech companies, and they do, user groups, or customer advisory boards, the different, sometimes called different things, but the idea is they get all their customers in person. And again, this is mostly before COVID, but it's coming back. They get all their customers in person, and for a day they do their customer advisory board. They talk about product strategy, product roadmaps, get advice on all of everything around product strategy, product roadmaps, from their biggest champions, right? So if you have a customer advisory board and it's in person and you're not leveraging it to collect video testimonials, I mean that's definitely a missed opportunity, because let's just think of it. You have all of your best customers, often your biggest as well, and definitely your biggest supporters who are power users of your product, and you have all of them there in the same location for 24 to 48 hours. In if you're not carving out like even like 60 minutes, and often we would do this. We do this on like a lunch break, or like a little bit of time. You get a bunch of people, you do a quick 15-minute interview, and you have 10, 15 testimonials over the course of just the breaks during the day. So yeah, first and foremost, it's like I mean, customer advisory boards and user groups are a golden opportunity to capture customer videos. Secondly, industry events and conferences. We've done a ton of as well, where you basically say there's a big conference like RSA or Black Hat, for cybersecurity, and like most everyone, a lot ton of if you're a marketer, and all of your customers are probably in town for Black Hat, and you can if you're having there's really two things that we see common. One, if you're hosting a party, you can actually, we've helped companies with this many times. Is like set up like very similar to a user group. You set up a video testimonial capture station at your party, at your like after party / event, and then, again, all your customers are there, and it's a great thing. Or you can set up a capture station with a videographer in a hotel suite. So that's another thing that we've done a lot of is like, you obviously, you're coordinating with your customers prior to the event. You're having these conversations with them prior, and you get the agreement. But during the event, it may be an industry conference. Again, it's not your user group, but you have a hotel suite. You're working with a partner, like us, and you just bring people up to the hotel suite for 30 minutes, and you knock out 3, 4, 5 of those more over the course of the day. And again, it's very efficient way to capture customer stories. Now, we're definitely seeing more of a shift toward hybrid events. So this kind of actually goes full circle, where remote testimonials can still be captured around your hybrid events, because, for example, like now post COVID, moving out of COVID, or just in the new world that we live in, it's like a lot more in-person events are going to be hybrid. So there's going to be people in person, but there's also going to be people who are just tuning in and remotely, and that's great. That's awesome. Like it's great to have that option. So what you could do as a marketer, say for your user group, is you have both, right? You capture on-site testimonials, capture 5 or 7 or 10 on-site testimonials from the people that attend in person, and then you capture the remote testimonials as well, from people that are attending remotely. Now, for the remotes, it could happen. It doesn't have to happen during the session like it does with an on-site at a customer advisory board, right? But you can still use the session as part of the conversation when you go to ask for the testimonial. And you could even, we've seen a lot of companies do it, remote testimonials in advance of their user group, and then actually show the customer videos, the remote customer videos at the user group. And that is awesome, because that is one of the best motivations for your customers to appear in a video testimonial, is actually the ability and the opportunity to be to share their expertise and share their knowledge and be held up as an expert amongst their peers, right? So like, we earlier in a conversation, we talked about the financial discounts, incentives, and another the other big motivator is actually helping make your customers, shining a light on your customers, and helping make them a superstar amongst their peers in their industry, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can come to them and you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, we're having a user group. I'd love to hold you up as an example of best practices for people who are getting driving incredible change and getting the most out of our product. Would you be open to a quick 30-minute conversation where we can capture your story? We'd love to air it and share it with everyone at the user group and across the industry. And then you're actually giving people something that is psychologically rewarding and also very practically rewarding from a careers perspective, right? You're giving them the psychological benefit of being able to share and be listened to and be heard and be honestly held up as a beacon of best practices, which is great. I mean, everyone that's just awesome. Like people love that. And then you're also giving them the practical benefit of like, okay, like everyone in the industry that I'm in, say if I'm like a product marketer and I'm giving a testimonial about product marketing, that's going to be seen by all my peers in the product marketing industry and other executives. It's career PR at a lot of different levels. So um, I know that was a lot that we covered, but I think those are a few of the big takeaways.
No, that's great. And, that's great argument for event testimonials. And let's really hope that they keep continuing the comeback that they have right now. So finally, we've talked a lot about customers, and honestly, mainly we focus on customers. But tell me about employee testimonials. Like, what is the value of an employee testimonial?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you know, um, it comes down to the same principles. For employee testimonials and the value of employee testimonial videos, it's the same principles. It's trust, right? It's raising the trust index. It's and essentially, whether nothing happens, without sufficient trust to facilitate that transaction, that agreement, whether it's a sale or it's a individual choosing to work for your company, right? People, especially in today's world, like people have options of where they want to go, where they want to work, right? The transition to remote work, and in the overall climate that we're in, great people have tons of options. All right. So like I mean, it's always been like a quote unquote like war for talent, right? But like that's more so than ever. And that is why um, video testimonials, employee testimonial videos are more more needed than ever, right? Because if I'm going to make a career change, or like I need to know that I can trust that I'm doing the right thing, right, as an employee. So like I'm going to look to that. Again, it comes down to competitive advantage. If I'm being recruited by two different companies and one of them has not a ton of recruitment marketing that is has a lot of video in it. Maybe they just have a pretty basic stuff. Or if I'm being another company has the recruitment marketing is chock full of authentic video testimonials. Like again, I might still take both of those calls, but my trust index is already going to be so much higher with the company that has all the employee video testimonials. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think we're recruitment marketing is the key term here. Like, and just like we as marketers, we need to market, to our customers to drive revenue. Talent acquisition professionals, or marketers themselves, depending on where it sits in your organization, you need to market your employment brand to candidates as well, right? So at the end of the day, like employee testimonials, it's the exact same thing, except for the agreement that you're trying to facilitate isn't a purchase. It's someone, awesome people agreeing to join your team in your company.
That's great. That makes a lot of sense for employee testimonials, and I mean, as you said, they're more important now than ever before. Sam, thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate it. A lot here and several good takeaways. That's all the questions I have for you today. Any last words you'd like to go over?
Thank you, Chase. Yeah, this has been super fun. I'm very excited to keep doing more of these. Yeah, I think my kind of closing thoughts are, I mean, it really just comes down to think about like the unchanging, timeless human psychological principles, right? That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about customer storytelling, and video testimonials. It's so it's the fact that we're increasing trust, and when we can do that, every part of our jobs as marketers becomes much easier. And so with that in mind, what are the priorities, right? What are, where are the gaps what is our strategy? Do we have the right customer stories to, execute that strategy at the best possible speed? And where does video fit in there? Of course, right? Because, obviously, like, I'm biased, like, we're focused on a video company, but the reality is there's psychological principles at play there in terms of why we do that, right? The reality is like, you know, as human beings, we evolved to read faces. That's just the way that we evolved. We evolved to read, trust, and micro expressions, on faces. That's how we judge people, for better or for worse in many cases. And you don't get that via text. So, like, the future of customer stories, is not text. The future of customer stories is video and all of the different mediums that video is becoming. The next thing is obviously, in the near future, we won't be on a traditional web browser. We will be in a more of a augmented reality situation, in a virtual reality situation. And especially as we move, and this is several years away, so it's more looking into the future, but like, as we move eventually, like, out of a browserless world, like, video is only going to be more important. So and again, it's just the emotional factor of video. You can't tell tone from text. And there's the last but not least, we're still, like, as much as I harp on, like, why as marketers we need video, we're still relatively early, right? Like, a lot of companies don't have any professional video testimonials, and that opportunity there, for our listeners, is to, again, make it your competitive advantage, right? Like, don't wait until your competitors have a whole page of 10 amazing on-site and remote testimonials for every single vertical, and then micro content that addresses every single question, fear, or doubt that your buyers have. Don't wait to get to that point. Be the person in your market who gets to that point first, and you will reap the rewards of that.
Well said. Excited to continue to dive into further video testimonial strategy in the future with you. Thank you so much again.
Awesome. Thanks, Chase.